Hi guys, my name is Kat Bowser. I'm a resident fantasy therapist, and welcome back to my channel. Those of you that are returning, welcome back. Those of you who are brand new, my name is Kat Bowser. I'm a licensed therapist, and I'm also an author working on my first novel, Coexist Division. And on my channel, I like to talk about writing, fantasy, world building, all things that have to do with writing and fantasy, essentially. And so today, I thought I'd talk about, given the love holiday that we just passed through, I thought I'd talk about some things that I really love. And that would be my top 10 favorite tropes to see in movies, in books, any kind of media. Last week, I released one about the top 10 tropes that drive me crazy. But like everyone, I have tropes that I love. And those of you who aren't entirely sure, a trope is a literary device that has been done over and over and over again. But it's not the same as a cliche. I tend to refer to a cliche as a trope that is not well written. So cliches can be written well. I've seen them written well. A lot of times you will see them done in a different way or taking a different angle, and I love to see that. But these tropes are ones that I see written well quite a bit, and I love to see them. No matter what the piece of media is, if this is in it, chances are I'm going to love it. Those of you who are following my work, chances are you've seen this probably in my fan fiction several times. And with my original work, you're going to see some of these, I can guarantee it. So, that being said, I thought let's just count down my top 10 favorite tropes. All right, number 10, my number 10 favorite trope is the took a level in badass trope. And one, I love the name of this trope. But I love this trope because it is essentially good character development. So with this trope, you have someone who either was not a fighter or was someone who was essentially a victim, and they decide they're not going to be a victim anymore. And they go and they usually through some kind of training course or over years of gaining knowledge, they come back and they are ready to kick some ass. And usually they are very good at it. I think one of my favorite examples that I've seen is if you guys watch Game of Thrones, I love watching Arya Stark, kind of go through her journey of becoming this individual who is not going to be a victim, isn't going to be pushed around. She's going to fight her own battles, and I love to see that. Anytime that you have a character who has decided to take their fate into their own hands for whatever reason, I love it. I absolutely love it. All right, trope number 9, and this kind of ties into the number 10 trope, and that is the pre-ass-kicking one-liner. And kind of what it says on the tin, so to speak. This is the phrase or line that is uttered before a fight, and it's usually uttered by the hero. And I particularly like this one when it's done not in a cheesy way, because there definitely are very cheesy one-liners, and while I do like them, I much prefer the ones that are given with emotion. Like, let's see, from the movie Serenity. Before River goes to defend her brother, she tells him, "You've always taken care of me." And then she stands up and says, "My turn." And I love it because it's calling back to development that she has had before. Like if you follow the series that came before it, she has always depended on her brother, and he's always done everything he could to take care of her, and now she's going to return the favor, and I love that. Another one that I really like is from Lord of the Rings, big surprise, when Sam confronts Shelob as he's attacking Frodo. And I'm using the movies for this one because honestly, I have to reread that chapter of the book. But in the movies, he faces Shelob and he just tells her, "Let him go, you filth." And Sam is a gardener, okay? Sam is not a fighter, but he's standing there holding the light of Galadriel and with Sting in his hand, facing a spider the size of a building, and he's saying essentially, "Come at me." And I love it. I absolutely love it. All right, trope number 8 that I love is the happily adopted. Um, I love this trope. So often in stories, whenever adoption is mentioned, it's usually a bad adoption. Usually, it's someone has been made a slave in their own house, or they're being abused or whatnot. So, whenever I see a family that has an adopted child and the child is happy and they're content and they're being raised well, I love it. Because believe it or not, most of the time that's what happens. I'm not saying that there aren't adoptions that go south. There's definitely are. But for the most part, adoption is a very viable option. And I love it when it's given, I love when it's given limelight. Because for me, I love seeing family that is not blood related and how strong their bonds can be. I absolutely adore it. And adoptive families are a great way to showcase it. Okay, so number 7 is fire forged friends. These are the friends that have been through utter hell together. They have been through some kind of adventure or trauma, and along the way, they have forged very strong bonds. And I love it because this tends to be what happens when you go through trauma or something very stressful with someone, and this someone is always by your side. That forms trust, that forms a strong bond. And when I see that showcased among characters, I love it because this is the type of thing that they can rely on later on in the story. And this usually leads to another trope of mine that I absolutely adore, and I'll talk about that one a little bit later. But I love seeing friends who will support one another and will always be there for each other. Platonic relationships are my absolute favorite to read in fiction, even more so than any romantic relationship, because I don't think it gets enough. Honestly, it doesn't get enough attention. All right, number 6, and I guess you can call this my guilty pleasure one. That's the last minute save. This is where the hero or his group of friends show up at the very last minute, literally at the 11th hour, and they show up just in time to save someone from either being killed, being hurt, being captured. Pick your poison. If you watched any cartoons in the 80s and 90s, you saw this probably once per episode minimum. And I can't help it. I love it. I will say I want to see a little build up to it though. Like I need to see how they're going to pull this off. Like if you're going to show me someone who charges in at the last second to save their friend, I need to see them at least working towards getting there. If they just kind of pop up out of nowhere and the last time we saw them they were 10 miles away, I needed to see some in between. But for me, it's so satisfying to see someone's loved one just charge in and essentially say, oh, hell no, to the villain. I love it. And as you probably guessed, this usually has that pre-ass kicking one-liner attached to it, so I'm good. Okay, number 5, the berserk button. I really like this trope because I think it actually is based in reality. When it comes to anger in psychology, we usually refer to it as everybody has anger triggers. And the berserk button is essentially an anger trigger that takes you from 0 to 10. And everybody has one. And I love it when it's used effectively. It can definitely be used ineffectively. Like a lot of times it's used for humor, and I'm not a huge fan of that one, but I do love it when someone has triggered somebody's berserk button and they use it to either defeat the villain or defend their friend. But they use that energy to do something good, and I love it. All right, number 4, the heterosexual life partners. And honestly, I'm kind of confused why this has such a title, but essentially, this is 2 friends that are close like brothers, like sisters, whatever the gender might be. I think in layman's terms, you would call it, that's my brother from another mother, that's my sister from another mister kind of thing. These are friends who might as well be siblings because they are so close. And I particularly love to see this done with males because females, they have a little more leeway just socially because expressing emotion and whatnot is considered more acceptable for females. So when I see it with males, I eat it up because it's healthy. It's it's showcasing that men are capable of these deeper emotions that so often get glanced over, and I just love to see it. Let's see, I'm trying to think of Nightwing and Flash from the Flash and Nightwing comics. This is Dick Grayson, the first Robin, and Wally West, the third Flash. And I love how these two interact because they tease each other and they pick on each other, but you also know that they're going to have each other's back. Nothing is going to keep them from protecting one another. And I love that. Again, that goes into my loving platonic relationships deal. And this is one that I see a lot with females, and I love to see it when it's done with males, and I'd love to see it done more. All right, trope number 3. Beware the quiet/funny one. I really like this one because I worked in a psych hospital for 8 years, and I can guarantee you it wasn't the loud ones we were worried about. It was the quiet ones. Because the quiet ones, we didn't know what they were thinking. We didn't know what they were feeling. And when you don't know, you never quite know how they're going to react to certain things. And I love it when literature takes this trope and works with that. Usually it's someone that has been very quiet or very calm, kind of mellow the whole story. And then something happens, usually a berserk button, and they just lose it. And I love it. I love to watch it because it usually involves a family member or a deep friend. And anytime those kind of relationships are brought to the forefront, I love to watch it because to me, that is what makes a character real to me, are these relationships. I want to know how deeply they love each other. And this is a great way to showcase it. It's also a great way to use humor if you want to. I admit this is one that I see done with humor as well, but this one I think works a little better because everybody has their breaking point. And especially if you're talking about a character who has not been accepted or has not been respected, there's only so long you can take it. All right, number 2, the found family. Oh, God, I love this trope to pieces. I love it so much. Essentially, groups of different characters, usually from different races, different clans, even different species, they come together because of an adventure. And through the course of their adventure, they form a bond with each other. They form a protectiveness with each other. They form a family with each other. And I love to see it because family is determined not by blood, but by who is going to be there and have your back. And that's what I love to see with these. Usually these characters are so loyal to each other. And it's so beautiful. I love to see these characters risk it all for someone that they're not related to, they're not in love with, but that they care about so much that they're willing to die for them. And that is so powerful to witness. There's actually a song called Tears in God's Eyes. And while I don't think it fits this trope entirely, there is a section of it that I always refer to, and that is something grows where nothing was as strong as any bond of blood. And I always think of that when I think of this trope. Okay, number 1, my top trope. The mama bear, the papa wolf, or the sibling instinct. Or as I like to refer to them together is, you mess with my family, you're gonna die. I love family relationships in literature, particularly parents to children, and I don't see it very much, especially in young adult literature, because usually, honestly, let's face it, the parents are usually dead. But for me, I grew up with a great family. I still have a great family, and I have no doubt that I have a mama bear and a papa wolf. I have no doubt that I have a big sister instinct. And for me, again, this is just demonstrating how much these characters love each other and care for each other. And what I love is when it's someone that you don't necessarily think can be a strong person, but there's also this kind of lingering idea that, yeah, maybe they can. And then when you see it, it's it's usually like the highlight of the book for me. It's usually the highlight of the movie for me when they just charge in and say, no, I'm not going to take this. For me, it's almost better when they don't have the training for it because they will use anything they can. I will see a mother that is using her bare teeth. I will see a father who is using a chokehold on a guy 3 times his size. I will see a sister or a brother who will go and grab anything they can do just to get to their sibling. And this doesn't isn't just limited to blood family. Anyone that plays a parental or a sibling role can fulfill this trope. And so I see it a lot with the found family trope. I see it a lot with the berserk button trope. And I adore it every time I see it because, again, what gets me is the emotions in the characters. I need to know how much these characters care about each other, care about their purpose, and seeing someone essentially say, I don't have the training for this, I don't have the skills for this, but if you think you're going to hurt my family, you're going to have to take me down first. And I adore it. I love it. And I will say, those of you who are following my work, you have probably seen this one a lot. And I can tell you, you will probably see it in my work in progress a lot. Because it's my favorite trope. I am total trash for this trope. And I don't care. I totally love it. Anytime it's going to be in a story or a book or a movie, I'm just going to eat it up. Okay, guys, so those were my top 10 favorite tropes. I do have other tropes that I like, other tropes that I don't like, but those are my top ones. So I hope you guys enjoyed it, and I am looking into doing some world building videos coming up probably next week. So I hope you guys will join me for that. And until then, I hope you guys have an excellent weekend, and I will see you guys later.